What's the good life? The good life that based Western philosophical thought. It is preferable to live a mortal life in the right place than a godly life in the wrong place, and Ulysses leaves. There is a place for you, a right way to live, with your nature, your specificities, talents. If you are in the right place, everything will be fine. If you are not even Calypso will fix it. What life needs to be worth it? Aristotle 350 BC guarantees that the purpose of life is to pursue excellence in oneself, which needs to happen definitively from birth to death. It is the full blossoming of one's own nature, going as far as possible given the natural resources that are yours. Then you imagine that the little painter will pursue excellence in painting, players will pursue it in football, others have talents for explaining complex topics in simple speeches. Then you will be happy, you will live happily. The purpose of life is to be as perfect as possible for oneself, to pursue the excellence of specificity, then life will be successful. It's like a plant, if it thrives, it will be spectacular in what it is good at. It's about returning to the world what you received, in the form of expertise, in performance, then you are happy. But imagine how to discover talent for drawing where there are no pencils and paper, or for music where there are no musical instruments. Then you can spend your whole life without knowing what your thing is, how to know what nature expected from you, then you will live anyway, without knowing your strengths and resources, and end up living a mediocre life, leaning where you are left. Life becomes less excellent, less spectacular, less exciting. But there are many lives that are like that, spending their whole lives waiting for the moment to end, eager to leave, the last day of the conference, bags at the door, imminent flight, and here I am listening about Ulysses and Calypso. Sometimes we are given extracurricular tasks, like swimming, and then you do a relay with a partner who is actually good at it, who jumps into the water and opens an absurd advantage for opponents. Then when it's your turn, opponents approach dangerously. Then you give up swimming, and they decide to take you to art classes. Art is so cool, right? For artists, you stay there, making ashtrays and having to explain that it's an ashtray. Then the next activity is origami, which in Japanese must mean devilish thing. 2,000 folds in the right order and you create a fascinating bird. If you make a mistake in the fold, an abominable creature comes out. Until one day at school, I was proposed to give a seminar, a suggestion from the teacher. My theme was oil. I knew nothing, but I was a straight-A student. Even though I wasn't enthusiastic about anything, I always got good grades. And when it was my turn to present, the school auditorium was packed, maybe because of my reputation as a crazy person, that helps bring in spectators. Looking at that auditorium, I felt a joy that I had never felt before. It was cool to be where I was. I felt like Ulysses in Ithaca for the first time. Aristotle was cheering me on. For the first time, I was in my place, like the pine tree that does well in the north and the palm tree that does well in the south. To make sure that that time would last as long as possible, I didn't start. The ecstatic audience commented, "This guy is crazier than we thought." The teacher threatened, "Start or I'll give you a 0. So I had to start. I spoke enthusiastically, saying everything I knew too quickly. When I finished, there were still 50 minutes left in the class. The excited audience complained, "Teacher, ask him to talk more." The teacher replied, "It's his lecture, he can speak as much as he wants." What a dilemma. I didn't want to leave, but I didn't know what else to say. So, I decided to make something up about oil. As I thought about what to say, I remembered my father, who was always the most important person in my life. Although he never went to school, he often said things I later found in the most sophisticated philosophies, like Nietzsche, who wrote a very complicated work, Thus Spoke Zarathustra. The philosopher said, "Take as long as you need to discover what you want from life." My father said, "Don't be in a hurry to live. Once you know what you want from life, don't back down for any reason." My father said, "Don't go backward, not even to get a running start." The philosopher said, don't back down because there are plenty of people in the world who want to dissuade you. My father said, don't back down because there are plenty of people who want to screw you over. And he would always add lovingly, you loser. So, given the dilemma, I told the audience, everything I've said so far is in the book. From now on, it's not written anywhere. I looked back, and the professor lowered his glasses, intrigued. I took advantage of his vulnerability and asked, do you know this? He shook his head negatively. So I said, then take notes, so you can learn something. In short, I left the classroom euphoric and went to find my father outside the school. He had never seen me run before and thought it was a mugging. But when I got into his car, he realized that Aristotle in the back seat of his VW Beetle was excited. I had found my place. For me, the classroom was Ithaca, where life is good, and I have been seeking excellence for so many years. I never left it. The Greeks celebrated another successful life, that little apple tree that grew into a big tree, an idea that has its nature, and the pursuit of excellence is happiness, returning to the world in the form of performance what it gave you in talent and potential. After the Greeks, thoughts were renewed, where Jesus was born in Nazareth 350 years after Aristotle. Aristotle was a Greek who studied at Plato's academy, while Jesus was a Jew who was educated in Judaism. Both subverted things. Jesus said things no one had ever said before. As a great sage, he answered what life needs to be worth living. Even though we live in a Christian society, Jesus' message still has an extraordinary impact on the minds of those who hear it. The best part of life, what is truly worthwhile, is a life dedicated to others. This is absolutely incredible, especially for us, who are used to hearing that life's success is related to our own gain. But Jesus says that what will truly make you happy is giving, achieving, and allowing others to live an extraordinary life that they wouldn't live without you. It's allowing others to smile at things they wouldn't smile at without your presence. It's allowing others to feel the joy they wouldn't feel if you weren't there. That's when you'll have lived a good life, a life worth living. That's the lesson of Jesus. Well, it only takes someone you truly love to be deeply ill for you to spend all your savings trying to recover them, or even ask God to switch places between you and your loved one. Thinking this way, you learn things about yourself. Staying alive is not the most important thing, because if it were, you wouldn't want to put yourself in the place of your child or loved one who is suffering from that illness. At that moment, you realize that love is worth more than your own life, which is why we propose such an exchange. It is at this moment that you understand why firefighters enter the flames to try to rescue the people there, why paramedics risk their lives to save lives, why social workers delve into violent places to save victims. At this moment, you can imagine that Jesus' example can embrace, even in corporate environments, and you question whether Jesus' lesson applies here. Well, if Jesus' lesson is that a good life is about giving your maximum to others, that every effort of yours is to help others reach their potential, and the focus of life is to share, then we can see this in various professions such as a doctor, a teacher, a police officer, an engineer. Even that professional who comes home late, and sometimes is called upon to attend an emergency in the middle of the night, does it out of dedication more than money. Working is above all about helping someone out, with training, with method, with protocol. Happy is the one who sees in others the result of their dedication, their commitment. It is evident that your clients often entrust you with their most valuable assets. They believe in you, they knock on your door, they use your services. Therefore, you understand that this is what gives you the dimension of your work, the smile of others, many others, those who will be happier, more encouraged, because of your work. And that is the result of your work, not spreadsheets, numbers, and graphs. This is the lesson of Jesus. You will have lived a life worth living. If you are at a table with a meal that serves 2 people, you will realize that you don't need to eat everything, and that it will do you good to eat less, especially if you have someone next to you who wouldn't eat that day, keeping you company. This is the lesson of Jesus.